Welcome to Hedgehog's Hungry Hodgepodge. Today, I'm going to be showing you how to make my family's noodle dish recipe. Why the simple name? Because it was a simple recipe. It was created during the Depression and it consisted of egg noodles, ground beef, a can of tomato soup, and a can of mushrooms. Over the years, it's been altered by different family members, so now I think it's high time for me to shake things up too. You're gonna need a medium-sized pot, a large pot, a colander, a medium-sized pan, an immersion blender, or a regular blender if you don't have one, some spoons, some measuring utensils, and an oven. First order of business, take your medium-sized pot and put it on the burner over medium heat. After you've let the pot heat up just a little bit, you're gonna add a tablespoon of olive oil. And you're just gonna sort of wait for it to heat up until it moves really easily. Like that. Woohoo! Dancing around. Next, you're gonna add about a half a cup of chopped onions. You can do a really rough chop because you're gonna be using an immersion blender later. So you're just gonna add that right into your pot. Yes, this is nice. And you're gonna let that saute for about 5 minutes, and you can push it around the spoon for a little bit. Pushing it around like the bully at your elementary school. Oh, that's not cool. Okay, maybe I should delete that. Next, you're gonna add a tablespoon of minced garlic. I'm just using store-bought kind, it's a lot easier. And you're just gonna pop that in and saute it for an additional minute. Next, you're gonna add a can of diced tomatoes. I would prefer that you use the kind with no salt since you're gonna be adding it later and you don't want it to be too salty. So you're just gonna pour that right in there. You're gonna wanna drain it ahead of time. And also you're gonna add 8 ounces of chopped mushrooms, again roughly chopped, immersion blender, you don't really need to do anything. And you're gonna saute this for 4 minutes. This is kind of what it should look like. You're gonna wanna push it around again every once in a while, just like your wife on the dance floor. That's what's up. Once that's finished bubbling around for a little bit, you're gonna wanna add 2 tablespoons of all-purpose flour. And you're gonna mix this baby in for 2 minutes and you're gonna stir constantly. So yeah, stirring. You're adding this as a thickener because this is essentially a soup. This is what it should start to look like. Nice and bubbly. Now what's gonna happen is you're gonna add 2 cups of chicken broth. Again, reduced sodium because of the salt intake, but if you can't find it, it's fine. It'll get diluted by the noodles. Just gonna pour that right on in there. And hopefully you won't pour it on your stove like I just did. You're also gonna add a bay leaf and 2 tablespoons of butter. And you'll just sort of stir that around until it's melted. Meanwhile, you're gonna bring it to a boil. It's gonna look like that. Once it starts boiling, you're gonna wanna put it on low, because otherwise it'll explode. And you're gonna let it simmer for 15 to 20 minutes. So we'll go ahead and apply that. In the meantime, you're gonna wanna take your big pot, you're gonna wanna fill it with 6 cups of water, and you're gonna wanna put it on the burner on high heat to bring it to a boil. And you just wait for it to do that. Oh my god, it's freaking magic. For video editing. Now that the water is boiling, you're gonna wanna add 8 ounces of egg noodles. I could measure this, or it's 16 ounces, so it stands to reason that it's half the bag. So we'll just do that. And you're gonna wanna let that do its thing for like 6 to 8 minutes. It'd be right around this time that you're gonna wanna preheat your oven to 350 so that it's timed perfectly for when everything is done. Alright, once that's done simmering, you should have something that looks like that. If you do, congratulations. Now what you're gonna wanna do is to pick out that bay leaf, because if you leave that in there, it's gonna be really gross. Now that you got the bay leaf out of there, you're gonna wanna add a 1/4 cup of chopped basil. This is also a rough chop. I think it's about time that I tell you I'm really afraid of knives. So yeah, kinda rough chopping is all you're gonna get in these. I guess my definition of a rough chop would be a really rough chop, and normal chopping is a rough chop. So there you go. Next you're gonna grab your immersion blender, plug it in. You're just gonna stick that baby in there and start whirring. If you don't have an immersion blender and you want to use a normal blender, what you're gonna want to do is to put the soup in like small batches at a time and puree them. Because if you put the whole thing in at once, it's gonna be a nightmare. So we're just gonna stick that in there, all the way in, and get going. Just gonna do it until it's pureed. You're gonna wanna have something like that. It's mostly pureed, but it's got some bigger chunks in it. I think it tastes better that way. Now what you're gonna wanna do is you're gonna wanna add a cup of 1/2 and 1/2. Put that right on in there. And you're just gonna stir it in until it's completely incorporated into the soup. And then you can take it off the burner. It's gonna look a little something like that. What's gonna happen next is you're gonna take your medium-sized pan, you're gonna put it on a burner, put it over medium heat. Again. Now that the pasta's done, we can drain it into a colander in our sink. You could choose another place to drain it, but I would not recommend it. And you're gonna pop it right back in the pot. Once the pan is sufficiently heated, you're gonna add in a 1/2 pound of ground beef. It can be any kind you want. I choose ground chuck because it's cheap. All right. You don't need to put anything else in the pan, just the meat. It's gonna make that nice sizzly sound. And you're just gonna break it up and move it around until it is all brown. You don't want any pink, but you want to cook it until it has just stopped being pink, because you're going to keep cooking it in the oven. So you're going to want to make it look like that. So now that everything has done its cooking, you're going to have to put it all together. Recipes, some assembly required. So that's the pasta. You can add the meat. You can render the fat if you want to. I think it adds a little something to the dish. But by all means, take it out if you don't want it in there. I know it's bad for you. And lastly, the soup. Pour it all over. Yeah. And then you're also gonna add a cup of shredded cheddar. You can shred it yourself if you want. I just got it this way. And you're gonna add salt and pepper to taste. I know, I hate when people say to taste, so maybe like a pinch of salt and 1/2 a pinch of pepper. I just kinda eyeball it. It's all up to you. This is a very flavorful dish, so you don't really need to add all that much. And you're just gonna try to mix all this together without making an enormous mess. So yeah, good luck with that. Luckily, this kind of just happened to mix itself on its own. This is how my luck always turns out. Love it. We'll add the dish. And we're gonna leave it in there, uncovered, for 30 minutes. And that's magnificent. Okay, so let's dig on in there. Oh, that looks brilliant. That is exactly how it's supposed to look. It's really hot. Be careful.
awesome. Doesn't even matter that it's burning my mouth right now.
To complement this dish, pair it with a glass of Sauvignon Blanc. Not a white wine person? Try a Zinfandel. Basically, you want something with medium body and a little bit dry. And if you're not a wine person at all, try an IPA or an amber ale. I know this video moved really fast, so just know that you can find all of my recipes at www.hedgehogshungryhodgepodge.com. You'll also find a schedule there for each month. You can either leave comments and suggestions there or right here on YouTube. I'd love to hear what you think. Also, to make sure you catch new episodes, be sure to subscribe. I'll see you guys next week at Hedgehog's Hungry Hodgepodge. Bye!